to chaos.
You can find the biggest game on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
For anyone doubting them, Giannis is working with and for the same exact people that Dwayne Wade worked for, the same exact people that Shaq worked for, the same people that LeBron and Bosh and Jimmy Butler all work. They've not changed one person. They are the most loyal, dedicated organization in all of sports. So Giannis better do what the rest of them did because he's with and for the exact same people.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday mornings starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2.
Dayton's radio home for Buckeyes football. 1410 WING. Dayton's ESPN Radio. You want hot takes?
No, I'm not going to apologize to Ryan Day. Everything we said about Ryan Day up until the playoffs was true.
Not bad. Come on, Kenner. You can do better than that.
To be fair, of all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow is the least accomplished.
Getting better.
1,000,000%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them.
There it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kenner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome in. Justin Kenner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. 937-518-1410. That's the number that you can text or call to jump in on the conversation. We are talking Bengals, we are talking Reds, and we are talking LeBron James here on the show. Today, I want to open up with Reds quickly, and then I want to move into the Bengals. I want to open up with the Reds just because, well, it's officially July. It's officially July. And if you think about the fact that, the Reds were really, really good in the month of April. And then they were bad in the month of May. And then somehow were even worse in the month of June. In fact, not only were the Reds worse in the month of June, they were the worst team in baseball in the month of June. How about this? How about the Marlins, by the way? The Marlins, best record in baseball in the month of June, 20-6. And then there's Cincinnati down at the bottom. One less win than the Mets, who fired their manager because, well, they just weren't playing well. Look, I don't know what to make of this. I find all of this fascinating. I mean, I didn't realize that the Braves were 9-14. The Reds and the Braves both won the same amount of games in the month of June. The Braves were on a stretch where they were the best, looked like the best team in baseball, and they definitely cooled off in the month of June. But no, look, the bottom line is this, is the month of April. I remember we had Sam LeCure on a few weeks ago. Sam LeCure said that, the month of April, when they had 20 wins, when they headed into the month of May, sitting at 20-11 and in first place in the division, he thought that some of those, that record was a little deceiving. He thought that there was a lot of smoke and mirrors when it came to the Reds. They did what they were supposed to. They won a lot of 1- and 2-run games. In fact, the things that they did in April are the exact things that they're not doing that they weren't doing in the months of May and June. All right. They're a bad baseball team. And because they had such a good April, I think getting 20 wins right off the bat, it definitely padded a lot of the struggles in May. And then the Reds, in June try to confuse us a bit because they beat the Yankees. And it's like, all right, they strung together a couple series. They took 2 or 3 from the Mets. And, you could say, well, that's not a big deal. The Mets are bad. I mean, look, 10-17 in the month of June, but the Reds were losing a lot of series to a lot of teams who were sitting at 10 to 12 wins in the month of June. So the Reds beat the Mets. And then, of course, they took care of business against the Yankees. But the Yankees have obviously, they've stubbed their toe as of late as well. They've lost 6 straight. The Yankees have lost 6 straight. In fact, they were under 500 in the month of June as well. But like I said, we know how good they were in April, not very good in May, and they were the worst team in baseball in the month of June. They were the worst team in baseball in the month of June. In fact, Reds and Braves, the only teams in baseball to win less than 10 games in the month of June. So there's that. 9-17. The Reds 9-17 in the month of June, the worst record in that stretch. We'll see if they can get it rolling here tonight against the Brewers. And how about last night's disaster? The Reds have dropped to 13.5 games out of the division, 6 games out of the wild card. In fact, both of those, at 13.5 is the furthest back that the Reds have been in the division all season, and 6 games back in the wild card, it's the furthest that they have been back in the wild card standings at any point this season. So things are getting worse. Things are getting better. For the longest time when the Reds were playing poorly, I was able to kind of hang my hat on the fact that, okay, well, that they're not playing well, but, they're still 2.5 games out. They're still 3 games out. Now there's really nothing to feel positive about this team because now they're still losing and now they're starting to plummet in the standings. And that's the concern. Because remember, I kept saying this. Everyone keeps telling me how bad the Reds are. Well, how bad are all the other teams that is allowing the Reds to stay in the hunt? Well, those bad teams, still not very good, but the Reds are getting worse and they're no longer keeping their head above water. In fact, I kept thinking, man, they're going to really put the front office in a tough spot if they're just kind of hanging around heading into the All-Star break. But they're doing their part to make it easy on the front office when it's all said and done, especially with the trade deadline coming up a month from Friday. August 3rd is the Major League Baseball trade deadline. So keep that in mind. A month from Friday is the trade deadline. So there you have it. Reds and Brewers game 3 coming up later on tonight. And by the way, that game will be on ESPN. Reds are 39-35. They got the Brewers here tonight, and we'll see if the Reds can get a game. Remember what I said, though? I said this series, they cannot drop 3. If you drop 3 or 4, you're in trouble. You're going to be 13 to 14 games back in the division. Not that the division matters at this point, because I don't think they have a chance to come back and win, but it is one of those things where, you need to at the very least split. Well, that's the very best that they can do in this series now. They have to win the next 2 to leave Milwaukee with the split, but losing games 1 and 2, 5-3 and 7-2. Game 3 coming up later on tonight. Andrew Abbott. And look, 2 of the Reds' better pitchers on the mound. The problem is it really hasn't been the starters for say. Last night, Rhett Lauder had a very weird stat line. He gave up 6 runs on 11 hits. He only walked 1 batter and he struck out 8. He had a good outing. He was throwing well, but he was getting just plummeted. I don't get it. He get pummeled. I don't get it. But the Reds can't catch a break. But they do have 2 very good pitchers on the mound tonight. But it's all going to come down to, can these pitchers get deep into the ball game? Because that's the other thing. The Reds, and I think it was Shaw a couple weeks ago or last week that brought up like, hey, the Reds are getting amazing outings from Chase Burns, but if you notice, he's not going deep into ball games, and it's not because the Reds are pulling him early. He's just not being efficient with his pitches. He's dominant. He's not giving up a lot of hits. He's not giving up a lot of runs, but he uses a lot of pitches to get outs. And he's not using his 96 to 100 pitches through 7 innings. He's using them through 5, and that's leaving the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th to be covered by the bullpen, and that's kind of been a problem for the Red starters. It's funny, if you look at their ERA and you look at their overall numbers as a rotation, they're one of the better rotations in baseball, but they also don't complement their bullpen well because they don't do a good job of going deeper into ball games. I gone are the days of your starters going 7 innings at least, but 6 innings has to be that sweet spot. The starters have to start giving the starters have to start giving 6 innings at the very least to give this team a chance. But continuously handing Terry Francona and the bullpen 4 innings of ground to cover, it's not working. And it's not going to work, especially against good teams like Milwaukee. And the Reds have game 3 coming up later on tonight. 8:00 will be first pitch for the Reds and Brewers. And that's Andrew Abbott on the mound. And then tomorrow, game 4, as the Reds wrap up the series with Milwaukee, Chase Burns will get the honors there. We will see Hunter Green make his debut for the Reds this Saturday, July 4th. Will there be fireworks? Well, probably. It's the 4th of July, but will there be fireworks on the mound? The Reds are, I think, like everyone, very curious to see what kind of how's it going to look? How's Hunter Green going to look? I think the Reds can get 2 outings of Hunter Green between now and the All-Star break. And they need Hunter Green to be really, really good, but not for the reasons you think. The rotation's been really good without Hunter Green. So Hunter Green being really good, I don't know what that does for the Reds necessarily from a win-loss standpoint, but what it can do, maybe the Reds get a little aggressive and say, you know what? We're not going to have a season next year. Maybe Maybe we strike while the iron's hot. If he shows that there's some life in that arm and he doesn't need a warm-up stretch, I'd be fascinated to see if the Reds start to dangle him out there at the trade deadline. I don't know how likely that is. I think that's a very aggressive move. I think it would be the smart move. I just don't know if it's going to be the move that the Reds roll with, nonetheless. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show right here, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. I want to transition over to the Bengals. ESPN put out their report cards for all NFL teams regarding their offseason. Even I, who likes to kind of point at the negatives when it comes to the Bengals, even I was shocked at the grade that the Bengals received with ESPN's report cards following the offseason for all NFL teams. We'll get to that when we come back. Think about this. The Browns traded away Myles Garrett. They traded away their best player. The Bengals added an elite player on defense, something that they had to do, and the Browns got a better offseason grade than the Bengals. Think about that during this break. We'll be right back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
Today, sunny, hot, and humid, a high of 96. Tonight, clear skies, a low near 75 degrees. And tomorrow, for your Thursday, sunny along with a few afternoon clouds, very hot and humid again, a high of 96. I'm Adam Zellick for 1410 ESPN Radio.
1410 Wing AM, Dayton's ESPN Radio, powered by...
A riddle brought to you by Progressive Insurance. What do your home and auto have in common? Progressive protects them both. It was an easy riddle. Learn more at progressive.com.
As America celebrates its 250th anniversary, the United States Mint is honoring our nation's liberty and civic ideals by rolling out a historic one-year-only coin redesign. Here's Paul Hollis, director of the U.S. Mint, with more.
To commemorate the nation's founding, we're introducing special designs for the dime, quarter, and half dollar. In time for the 4th of July, our newest quarter, entering circulation, honors the Declaration of Independence and connects Americans to the people and principles that launched this nation 250 years ago.
The head side features Thomas Jefferson and bears a dual date, 1776 to 2026. The tail side depicts the cracked Liberty Bell ringing with the inscription, the Declaration of Independence.
Americans can find the Declaration of Independence quarter in everyday transactions or purchase them directly from the U.S. Mint. They're meant to be shared, saved, and remembered as part of this historic anniversary.
To learn more about this year's commemorative coins, visit usmint.gov.
I love a girls' weekend, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin, thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Rizza, a prescription-only injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy.
You can usually find me in the kitchen, but my active psoriatic arthritis can limit me at times. Now I'm still in the mix with Skyrizi to treat my joint symptoms.
With Skyrizi, most people with plaque psoriasis saw 90% clearer skin when measured from head to toe at 4 months.
Or if you're an adult with active psoriatic arthritis, Skyrizi helps you move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
There's nothing like clearer skin.
There's nothing like better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Join the City of Dayton for the Lights in Flight America 250 celebration on Friday, July 3rd. Claim your spot along Patterson Boulevard for the Patriotic Parade at noon. Then enjoy a celebration at Riverscape Metro Park from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. featuring the Eddie Brookshire Band and DJ Scano. Cap off the evening with the area's premier fireworks display at 10 p.m. Launched from the Kettering Field Sports Complex and viewable from surrounding areas. Visit DaytonOhio.gov and follow the City of Dayton on social media.
What if your instincts could pay off? With Robinhood Prediction Markets, you could put your sports IQ to work on the games you know best. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. Buy or sell your predictions all game long. Trade every play with Robinhood. Visit Robinhood.com/predict. That's Robinhood.com/predict. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm.
Nobody builds a business without hearing a few reasons it won't work. Too risky, too crowded, too ambitious. But the people who move things forward usually hear those words first. Because growing a business takes more than optimism. It takes nerve, and eventually, a partner built for what's next. That's Next Rodeo. Big thinking, proven creative. For businesses still moving forward. Next Rodeo. The difference between the business you have and the business you want. Meet us at thenextrodeo.com.
From the FIFA World Cup to competitive business environments, grand ambitions lead to game-changing achievements. At Bank of America, we're there to support businesses at every step, providing insights and expertise to help you gain an edge.
He shoots, he scores!
What would you like the power to do? Explore winning business solutions at BofA.com/gamechangers. Bank of America, official bank of the FIFA World Cup 2026.
Cordell Transportation is looking for more weekend warriors. If you have a Class A CDL and would like to make some extra money casually driving weekend daytime routes, then Cordell Transportation is looking for you. Home daily, all loads round trip, no touch freight, and competitive pay. Full-time routes could become available if you're interested. Drive weekends at Cordell Transportation. Apply at CordellTransportation.com or call Ron at 937-277-7271. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Swing by Frickers today and treat yourself to our irresistible ribs and chunks special. Enjoy tender, saucy ribs grilled to perfection, paired with your choice of frickin' chicken chunks, boneless wings, or traditional wings, plus homemade slaw, your favorite side, and a roll, all for just $16.99. Don't forget, kids eat free all day, every day at Frickers, so bring the whole family for great food, family fun, and all the sports action you crave. At your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits, Frickers.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kenner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
Exactly, Stephen A. He's been here for 10 years, and we're still trying to figure him out. The Justin Kenner Show, weekdays at 3 p.m., right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Now, back to the Justin Kenner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
I don't know if y'all know this about me, but I love when there's not so positive headlines that surround the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, I'm a Browns fan. I mean, I'm never going to change. But there are times where I'm put in a position where I have to defend the Bengals, and I feel like today's one of those days. Okay? I feel like today's one of those days. My biggest pet peeve doing this job is for years I've never felt, even though you guys think I just hate on the Bengals to hate, I don't feel like I've ever said anything that isn't true. Like if I say that the Bengals offensive line is bad, and I know this one's not as bad as what it's been, but over the years when I've pointed out that the offensive line is bad, I get annoyed with the fan base when they say, well, you're just hating. I thought you knew. I thought you knew that the O-line was bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like I always get frustrated with that. Like if I'm talking about something that's bad about the Bengals, and you know it's bad, you can't just chalk it up to me hating. There are, and I've done there's been many times where I've been forced to be positive about the Bengals, and I feel like, although I have still pointed out a lot of the question marks about this team, based on my standards and who I am, I feel like this is the most positive I've been about the Bengals in quite some time. My biggest knock on the Bengals has just been, hey, y'all think I hate Joe Burrow. I'm not a Joe Burrow guy like you guys are, but I know how damn good Joe Burrow is. And sometimes I felt like over the years, does your front office know how good he is? Because I feel like at times I'm like, man, you have arguably, like when Joe Burrow is healthy, he's so damn good that he does force people to sit back and say, is he better than Josh Allen? Is he better than Patrick Mahomes? Now, I don't think he is, but I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying I would still take those two over. I would definitely take Josh Allen over Burrow. Joe Burrow has a good arm. Josh Allen has a great arm. Josh Allen doesn't miss games. Josh Allen, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I'm hating for saying that. I think that Josh Allen brings more to the table. I think his arm is better. I think he's bigger. He's stronger. What he brings with the run game, he's not fragile. He doesn't miss games. I think that matters. But again, we're talking about the top three quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think Lamar's fair to kind of put in that conversation as well. But the point is I do believe I've been pretty fair about the fact that, hey, I know how good Joe Burrow is. Sometimes I don't feel like your front office knows it because they should be acting with more urgency. I feel like they failed the Joe Burrow rookie era. I don't think that they tried to maximize the roster think about, when, you have Duke Tobin coming out over the years and talking about how tough it is to pay everybody. Remember he loved again, trying to basically describe it as a pie, and not everyone's going to get the same slice of a pie, or they're not even going to get a piece of pie at all. Yeah, we know that, sir, which is why we thought it was kind of stupid that you didn't go all in on this roster when you were barely having to pay Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. You were paying them peanuts. So my biggest gripe about the Bengals over the years is they never made moves that were aggressive when you weren't having to pay them. So that was always been my biggest gripe, is like they don't act with enough urgency. They didn't act. They're horrible at drafting. I need to see this draft class actually look decent before I sit there and say, oh my God, they have a good draft class. I don't trust them. So the bottom line is they attack the offseason and free agency in a way that we have not seen since Joe Burrow arrived in Cincinnati. The way they attacked free agency convinced me that this front office sees the urgency in the matter. It should not have taken, in my opinion, Joe Burrow having to go on media tours or threaten to not play football anymore because he's not having fun. I don't think that should have to happen for you to do your job. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you got here. You're here. And now all that matters moving forward is the results. So ESPN put out their grade cards, if you will. Look, it's July. All right, you're going to get a lot of content in July across multiple shows of list segments, grades, this, that, and the other. And this is what ESPN put out. They put out their, NFL offseason grades, draft trades, more moves by teams, this, that, and the other. So, you can click on every team to see which teams, which team got what grade. You click on Cincinnati, and I was a little surprised. I thought Cincinnati had one of the best off seasons in quite some. Honestly, they had good off seasons the years that you get Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Those were good off seasons, but this might be the best off season that they've had. And can you guys tell me the last time they had an off season like this? Maybe, I guess I could be fair. The year that they got Trey Hendrickson, right? Like they added some key pieces that off season. I thought that was a good off season for them, but it outside of that, there hasn't been many off seasons like this one, especially when you add the fact that they were so aggressive and giving up the, first round top 10 pick to go get a Dexter Lawrence. I love that move. That showed everybody that they were serious. But, when ESPN puts this out and they give the Bengals a C, I was kind of taken back by that. Now, to give you a little bit more context here, it's an article on ESPN, and the individual is Seth Walder. Seth Walder, he's an NFL analyst for ESPN. He specializes in quantitative analysis. He's also a regular on ESPN Bet Live and helps cover sports betting. Seth has been at ESPN since 2017. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know exactly who Seth Walder is, but he is the individual that was tasked by ESPN to grade these NFL off seasons. So do with that information what you will. So to go back to what we were just discussing, so this is it's a little tough to see for those watching on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page and the YouTube channel, but I'll read some of this. And like I said, y'all think, I know I love anytime I have a chance to poke fun at Cincinnati, but there's nothing I hate more than being forced to be put in a position to defend them. But the Bengals were given a C. And Seth Walder says that the Bengals' biggest move was trading for Dexter Lawrence. I think that's obvious, right? You give up the number when the Bengals, a lot of teams are aggressive with their draft picks at times. Like if the Rams would have done this, I don't think that this would have been highlighted. It's just what the Rams do. But the Bengals doing this, that's a big deal. That's outside the norm, right? So the move that Seth Walder liked with ESPN, obviously signing Boy Mafe again from, the Super Bowl champions, the Seahawks, right? The move that he disliked was trading for Trevor Lawrence. So the biggest move, I said Trevor Lawrence, my apologies, Dexter Lawrence. Seth Walder says that the biggest move that the Bengals made was trading for Dexter Lawrence. It was also his most disliked move that the Bengals made this offseason. He goes on to say that Cincinnati has been plagued by bad defense after bad defense. Edge rusher Trey Hendrickson's long-awaited departure wasn't going to help in that regard, so the team got aggressive in adding a different type of defensive star. He says, at the time I graded the deal, I thought Lawrence would be a significantly revamped contract, which would have basically meant the Bengals paid a first-round pick for market value. However, the contract revisions were minor, so that part was not as bad as he had anticipated. All right, but he goes on to say that the move was both uncharacteristic and he called it unwise. This is where I can't get on board with him. I agree with him. It was uncharacteristic. I don't think trading for Dexter Lawrence was unwise. He says, yes, Cincinnati needs to invest resources into its defense, but this was not the way to do it. He says, Dexter Lawrence is a good player who has been elite in the past, but he is coming off of a down season, just an 8.4% pass rush win rate and less than, he only had a half sacks last season. There's also a big difference between sending the number 10 pick and, say, a late first rounder. And that's why this is too pricey of a trade. I cannot disagree with this cat more. There were a lot of factors. Like this is why I don't like when people try to put values on draft picks. I think every team, every draft pick has a different value. A number one pick has a different value to every team in the NFL. If you have a quarterback already, having the number one overall pick, that pick doesn't have as much value to you as what it does someone else. And I guess it would have value to you because other people would want it. But you know what I mean? Like it impacts everyone differently. The Bengals having a top 10 pick, they were put in a position where they were coming off some of the worst drafts that they have had in franchise history. There's a reason the defense is as bad as it has been, is because I don't think it was a wrong decision of the Bengals. The Bengals looked at like teams like the Chiefs and others who said, we're going to put all our money on offense and we are going to have to really balance this roster out by hitting in the draft on defense. The Chiefs did that and the Chiefs knocked it out of the park. The Bengals tried to, outside of signing Trey Hendrickson and a couple, free agents on the defensive line, they tried to draft and develop cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers. They tried to get aggressive last offseason when they got Geno Stone, and that was, an absolutely horrific result. Keep in mind, Stone had a lot of high, there was a lot of praise for that move initially because, hey, he was coming from the Ravens, and the Ravens really liked him. And, so I'm not going to rip the Bengals for that move last year, but the result just was so bad. So because of all of that, I look at the Cincinnati Bengals, and they whiffed on so many draft picks. They could have selected a player with that number 10 pick. And I think that they don't trust themselves. I don't think that the Bengals trusted themselves with that number 10 pick, which is why they said we could select somebody. But if we fail developing this guy, this is just going to be another chapter in how we have failed throughout the Joe Burrow era. Or we could be beyond uncharacteristically aggressive and use that number 10 pick and go get a proven defensive commodity in Dexter Lawrence, who many people believe is the best interior defensive lineman in football. And the debate with him is, no, he's top 3. Whatever. For most teams, giving up a number 10 pick for a Dexter Lawrence might be a little silly. But for a team like the Bengals, who desperately needed an impact player like that to help set the tone and add an identity to the defense, like I said, not every team has the same value or the same needs. That's why I hate when we do that. Well, you don't trade, you don't sign that position there. Well, if you really need that position, you do. Oh, you don't pay that player that much money. That well, if you desperately need that player, you do. Like I hate when we do that. Like I said, I hate that I'm being put in a position to defend the Bengals, but I can't believe that, in my opinion, was one of the best offseason moves across the board, not just for the Bengals, but across the NFL, how we are sitting here talking about, man, the Bengals made a mistake with Dexter Lawrence. I'm here to tell you, even if Dexter Lawrence has a bad season or ends up being bad moving forward, it was still the right move to make because it showed fans, it showed Joe Burrow, it showed this roster, it showed Zach Taylor, it showed football in general that the Bengals were tired of messing around, that they were serious, that they were ready to win football games, and that they couldn't just sit here and draft and develop every position on the field. They needed veteran, proven guys, and that's what they did this offseason. I have no clue how the Bengals can get a C for what I think is honestly their best or second best offseason in the last 10 years. I can't get on board with this. I always, and you know me, I'm a troll. I'm always looking for something that I can enjoy to read to annoy Bengals fans, to tell you that your team's not as good as you think. I'm here to tell you, I think your team's as good as you think. And it makes me sick as a Browns fan, but that's the reality of it. But I can't get on board with this guy. I just can't. I don't think the Bengals I don't think it was a mistake. Signing Dexter Lawrence or trading for him was unwise. Can't get on board with that. And like I said, too, like if the Bengals had confidence in their ability to draft and develop, maybe this is an unwise move. But because the Bengals are not a good drafting team and they're not good at developing, or at least haven't proven to be in the last 3 to 5 years, that's why they had to make this move. So I'm all on board with their offseason. I disagree with the grade being a C. I think that's kind of silly. You know, he goes on to say that the Bengals also added Jonathan Allen to play next to Lawrence on a 2-year, $25 million deal. Allen was great in his prime, but it has been several years since he was that player. He didn't produce much last season in Minnesota or in 8 games with the Commanders the year before. So this is not how I would have spent my money if I were the Bengals. Some of these are fair points. I don't think it's wrong to point out that Jonathan Allen, you know, I know he sounds good because you're saying they're adding a all-pro pass rusher to play alongside Lawrence. It sounds good. I still like, to me, the moves signaled aggression and urgency and desire to win. I think that's why I love what the Bengals did this offseason. Maybe there's something to what this guy is saying in regards to, okay, who these players are. Because I don't think, even Bengals fans, as mad as you are, I don't think you can get mad at that point. I think that's a fair point. A 2-year, $25 million deal for a player who was once great in his prime, but has not been great or good for several years. I kind of get that. But what I've also been been very critical of the Bengals in recent years is you can't just keep adding first and second year guys to this defense. You can't just keep playing with rookies and second year guys on this defense with no one to learn from. You need veteran proven guys to kind of just follow their lead a little bit, see how they go through the grind, and kind of learn from the veterans that are out there, you know. And one of the key veterans that they've had to try to look up to the last couple of years was one of the biggest crybabies in the world, and Trey Hendrickson, who wanted a contract, got a contract, cried because he was dumb because he signed the bad contract, and then was a distraction for the last 2 or 3 years. And then finally gets said contract, and then we don't see him all season. So I get what he is saying. At the end of the day, he does go on to say, I wasn't down on every Bengals defensive addition, though. They did add Mafe in free agency on a 20-year contract. Mafe has always fared well in win rates and finished in the 80th percentile or better in both pass rush win rate and run stop win rate last season. Now, the question that he does post here about Mafe is one that I think is fair as well. He does say that the question will be whether he can keep up that level of play with a larger workload in Cincinnati. Because keep in mind, he wasn't an every down guy. He wasn't one of the premier guys on that deal. He rotated in, and when he was out there, he was efficient. But how efficient can he keep those numbers? Can he keep that efficiency going? Can he have that same impact being one of the premier guys on that D-line? I think that's a fair thing to ask. However, those were the same questions asked about Trey Hendrickson when the Bengals got him many years ago. Because I remember saying, man, the Bengals were stupid for paying Trey Hendrickson at the time. That was a lot of money, the 20 to 25 mil range or whatever it was, for a guy that wasn't even an every down, pass rusher. And for a guy that, had one really good season and the Bengals went all in on him. I thought that was the stupidest move ever. I was wrong about that. Trey Hendrickson is arguably, I don't think it's a hot take. He's their best free agent signing in the last 10 years. Am I wrong? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I feel like this is one of those things I'm saying where I'm like, oh man, I probably missed an obvious one. Am I wrong? I know we don't like Trey Hendrickson. He was very annoying on his way out. And then of course, of all the teams that he chooses to go play for, he goes to Baltimore because he wants to stick it to the Bengals twice a year. But the same concerns that a lot of doubters had, including me, about Trey Hendrickson, people have about Mafe. And I and many doubters were wrong about Trey Hendrickson. And I think these doubters could potentially be wrong about Mafe as well. So there you go. The last paragraph in this evaluation says that the Bengals need a healthy Joe Burrow and some semblance of a defense to get back to the playoffs in 2026. But they face the easiest schedule in the league this year per ESPN's Football Power Index. So I don't know. Seemed like a little bit of a backhanded compliment. Who knows? But But oh well. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. 937-518-1410. Like I said, I always love an opportunity to try to rain on Bengals fans' parades. But this guy made me defend the Bengals, and I don't like that. I don't like that this individual with ESPN made me defend the Bengals. Seth Walder, by the way, for those of you who are just tuning in, he was tasked by ESPN with grading every NFL offseason, and he gave the Bengals a C. He said to me, what made the Bengals offseason an A was Dexter Lawrence. But the reason I give them an A is the same reason he's giving them a C. He thinks the Bengals, that it was unwise to do what they did to go get Dexter Lawrence. I disagree. What about you? 937-518-1410. Yes, Bengals fans, I want to talk to you, but non-Bengals fans, you agree with me? I know we kind of like to find reasons to poo-poo on their parade, but this is actually one of the best moves that front office has made, and one of the best moves that this front office has made of all time when you think about how poor that they've been as far as lack of urgency, this, that, and the other. I think it's crazy. The Browns, by the way, got a B. The Browns got a much better grade than the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll take a look at the Browns evaluation when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy real estate as is, fast for cash. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family, apartment buildings, commercial properties. I even buy my tenants won't pay me the rent houses. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
If you need new roofing, siding or gutters, skylights or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. See Lance Roofing and Siding at their new location at 6903 Dayton Springfield Road in Enid. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722. Online at lanceroofing.com.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams 4th of July sale and get 30% off paints and stains June 26th through July 6th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
Describing the delicious flavor of Lee's new famous wrap is tough, but we figured we'd give it a shot. Imagine crispy, golden, fried to perfection chicken, drizzled with bold, peppery, beautifully balanced famous sauce, resting on a plush bed of succulent lettuce and sprinkled with cheese. It's like ordering delicious with a side of exquisite. In other words, it's awesome. The famous wrap with new famous sauce. Only at Lee's. Famous for a reason.
Download to see if you qualify. Not all customers will qualify. Transfer fees may apply. No Albert subscription required. Albert is not a bank. Albert Instant Loans are issued by FinWise Bank, member FDIC. Not an actual client. Terms apply.
Kylie, what's wrong? I just got hit with a car repair bill. I'm behind on rent, and I feel like I can never save any money.
Have you tried the Albert app? Albert is your financial assistant, helping you find ways to save and create custom budgets to actually grow your money. Plus, you can get up to $10,000 for big expenses or advance up to $1,000 fast when you need cash right away.
Albert can get me up to $10,000?
Exactly. Albert spots you in a pinch and helps you grow your money in the long run.
I'm downloading Albert right now.
Download the Albert app and use promo code FUTURE to borrow up to $10,000 for whatever you need. The Albert app helps you budget better and save more money so you reach your financial goals faster. Download the Albert app right now and use promo code FUTURE to borrow up to $10,000. Use code FUTURE to borrow up to $10,000.
Do you or someone you know need a driver's license? Sign up now to get your testing completed at our Moraine Auto Title location. Hi, I'm Shannon Crabtree from the Montgomery County Clerk of Court's office. Clerk Foley is proud to team up with the Ohio BMV to be a designated testing location, perfect for new drivers in southern Montgomery County. Schedule your driving skills test now on the Ohio BMV website. Choose a location at 5552 North Springboro Pike. Testing fees apply. We even have weekend hours to accommodate your busy schedule. Just another convenient service of your Montgomery County Clerk of Courts, Mike Foley.
Progressive knows you could have easily taken the freeway, but you took the scenic route to see a waterfall and an oddly busy boiled peanut stand. Discovering the unexpected is exactly why you bought an RV, so protect it with a bundle from Progressive. Because although you may be 3 hours behind schedule, you're 6 jars of jam richer and possibly enrolled in a butter-churning workshop. Switch to Progressive and protect your RV, boat, or motorcycle by bundling with your home or auto insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Fresh paint inside, fresh flowers outside. Summer at your house is looking good. During July 4th deals at Lowe's, buy one, get one free. Select interior paint via mail-in rebate. Plus, get 2 1.5-gallon red, white, and blue annual hanging baskets for just $15. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 7/8. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See store at Lowe's.com for details and requirements. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Progressive presents perfectly bad excuses for missing stuff to spend more time on your motorcycle.
Hey, Suze, can't make it to your party. Gotta defrost some chicken. There's tenders, boneless thighs. Gotta keep an eye on it.
Now that was a bad excuse. If you love your vehicle this much, get customized coverage from Progressive, America's #1 motorcycle insurer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in D.C.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, everybody, we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Game 3 between the Reds and Brewers coming up right here on 1410 ESPN Radio later on tonight, 8 o'clock. This game is on ESPN tonight. Reds don't get many ESPN games, but Andrew Abbott will be on the mound tonight for the Reds. Chase Burns will have a chance to close out the series tomorrow. I said heading into the series with the Brewers that they cannot drop 3 or 4. They can't get swept, and they can't drop 3 or 4. Well, right now their work's cut out for them because they have to win the next 2 to at least come away with the split. And I said, look, that's all I was asking for. I wasn't even trying to be too unreasonable by asking for a Red Series win. I just said, just don't drop 3 or 4. Don't get swept. Just split this series with the Brewers. Nonetheless, but we'll see. Andrew Abbott, like the problem is the rotation's been so damn good, but like, that's not the problem. Like the rotation's been good and they're still not winning games. And a lot of people are blaming the bullpen, and the bullpen needs to be better. Yes. But sometimes the rotation is why the bullpen is struggling. I think that, the rotation has been really, really good for Cincinnati, no doubt about it. But when you just look at the pure numbers, when you just want to look at, obviously they don't give up a lot of hits and they don't give up a lot of runs, but they also throw a lot of pitches. And when that happens, you end up only going 5 innings, and then you leave a lot of innings. I mean, when you almost have when the bullpen almost has as many innings to eat as the rotation does on a nightly basis, that's tough, man. That's really tough. I think that's really, at the end of the day, something that has to be, taken a look at one way or another. But you talk about innings pitched on the season, the Reds rotation, the Reds bullpen has thrown. They're in the top 5 in innings thrown on the season. The Reds bullpen gets used a lot. The Reds bullpen usage is through the roof. That's a problem because, the rotation's great. I love the production of the rotation, but because the bullpen is not deep because of all the injuries that it's sustained throughout the season, they haven't been able to muscle the innings 6, 7, 8, and 9 every single night. That's why you're seeing, guys being thrown out there that I don't think need to be thrown out there, and it's like they're experimenting with different guys, and I'm just not a fan of that right now, especially as this team's trying to navigate through this and get through with some results, and they're definitely not getting those results that we wanted this team to get. But TJ Antone has thrown. I mean, this is a guy that's had 3 Tommy John surgeries. He has thrown a lot, right? He's been thrown out there a lot. The Reds brought in the likes. They brought Emilio Pagan back on a 2-year, $20 million deal. That's a lot of money. And he was just brought back. I mean, they just brought him back yesterday. Didn't have there was definitely not a save opportunity for him, but that's the role that I do believe that the Reds would love to have him be the closer. That was the vision for him coming into the season. In fact, it wasn't pretty, but at the beginning of the season, he led Major League Baseball in saves. He was getting a save almost every night because the Reds were winning 1- and 2-run games every single night. I mean, that's one thing we talked about earlier, is the fact that the Reds were so good in April, and they were good in April because they were doing all the things that is basically why they're losing right now. They were winning close games, 1-run games, 2-run games, low-scoring games. Their pitching was so good, they were winning those games. They're not winning those games right now. But, Emilio Pagan, you got in the offseason, Pierce Johnson, Caleb Ferguson, Brock Burke, TJ Antone finally, healthy. TJ Antone, he really came onto the scene. He was a really good pitcher early on for the Reds. In fact, this was back when Trevor Bauer was with the Reds. He was a part of the throwing program. He was working out with Trevor Bauer, and he had nasty movement on a lot of his breaking balls, and he was progressing in the right direction. 3 Tommy John surgeries. And at times he's looked solid, but I mean, he's not like he's a shutdown guy you're bringing out of the bullpen anymore. He doesn't have the stuff that he used to. But nonetheless, we'll see what ultimately happens. But this team needs this bullpen cannot continue to go out there and have to be responsible for almost the same amount of innings on a nightly basis that the rotation's responsible for. Hunter Green back on Saturday, though. Hunter Green will be on the mound on Saturday for the Reds at Great American Ballpark. So keep that in mind as far as your Reds are concerned. Like I said earlier, I do think that the Reds, when we open up the show, I think that the Reds can sneak in. I think they could sneak in a couple starts for Hunter Green before the All-Star break, especially if he gets the start on Saturday. So if he gets the start on Saturday, which it sounds like he is, all right, that'll be on July 4th. 5 days later, he should be on the mound for either the finale against Philadelphia or game 1 against the Cubs. So who knows? But I do think as long as everything goes well for Hunter Green on Saturday, you'll get to see him not once, but twice before the All-Star break. But good for him for getting back the way that he did. Good for him for getting back the way that he did as we sit here right now. All right, back to the NFL. So last part of the show, I said it ticks me off when I'm put in a position where I have to defend the Cincinnati Bengals, but ESPN and Seth Walder was tasked by ESPN to put out grades for every NFL team's NFL offseason. And I was very surprised to see that Cincinnati was given a C. I think that one of the biggest moves, the most aggressive moves of the offseason by any NFL team was when the Bengals decided to give up their first-round pick to go get Dexter Lawrence. And yes, it was a first-round pick. It was a top 10 pick. But the way that the draft, the way that a lot of mock drafts were kind of formulating and the way that a lot of boards were shaping up, a lot of the guys like Reuben Bain Jr. and others, a lot of the guys that the Bengals really wanted, a lot of people thought those guys were going to go off the board a lot sooner than what they did. And the Bengals had to nail this draft. Okay? They had to nail this draft. And they have not been very good at, going after guys that aren't the for sure things, if that makes sense. Like they think that they found something and they're going to, they think that they saw something in Shamar Stewart and they're going to show everybody. Well, they showed everybody why they were right. They've taken a lot of chances. They've ignored red flags on guys left and right. All right. Whether it's Eric All and his injury history, that's all he had in college. Oh, but he's really good. We know no one's doubting how good he is, but he was a first round talent that dropped because he can't stay healthy. Right. Like he couldn't stay, healthy as far as that's concerned. And that should not have been a surprise because, that was his issue in college. So I don't know. It's one of those where the Bengals have always done a bad job of ignoring the red flags for certain, pieces coming out of college. You think of the wide receiver from a few years ago. He had a horrible attitude playing for Kirby Smart. He had a horrible attitude playing for Nick Saban, but the Bengals said, oh no, Burton, your attitude, you thought you were too good to play for Kirby Smart. You thought you were too good to play for Nick Saban. You wouldn't listen to those two, but hey, he'll listen to Zach Taylor. The Bengals constantly ignore red flags. They think they're the smartest team in the room. So they had to nail this draft, and they, rather than take a chance with someone at 10, they went ahead and used that number 10 pick to go get the for sure thing. And to me, that is obvious, obviously Dexter Lawrence. But again, ESPN, with this particular writer, not a fan of the Bengals trading for Dexter Lawrence. He thought it was unwise. The Bengals made a high-profile trade, he says, sending the number 10 pick to the Giants in exchange for Lawrence. The move was both uncharacteristic and unwise. Yes, Cincinnati needs to invest resources into its defense, but this was not the way to do it. Lawrence is a good player who has been elite in the past, but he's coming off of a down season. So, okay. Like I said, the Bengals needed to be aggressive. They were. I applaud them for that. My biggest knock has been the lack of urgency that organization has displayed throughout the Joe Burrow era. I'm not questioning that right now. We're not heading into this season with me questioning whether this front office did everything that they could to put a winning team out on that field. I believe they made so many moves this offseason. I'm convinced that they were trying to make moves to win this season. I was not convinced the last couple of years, and it showed. I don't care about the injury to Joe Burrow or not. Even if Joe Burrow was healthy, this team had many, many flaws that even Joe Burrow's presence couldn't overcome. And we saw that when he came back in November last year. They still weren't winning football games at a good enough rate to overcome some of those deficiencies nonetheless. But if, Cincinnati, I thought Cincinnati and Cleveland both had great off seasons. In fact, it was to the point to where I'm like, I'm not even going to say, well, the Browns had a better off season than the Bengals. The Browns and Bengals are both in two completely different lanes right now. Both had to make certain decisions that was best for their franchises moving forward. So I don't think either one had a better off season than the other. I think both had great off seasons. Cincinnati accomplished what it needed to, which was to get to get some proven veteran talents on that defense and get that defense to a point to where it can, in some capacity, complement the offense to put them in position to go win football games. They did that. And Cleveland had to find a way to make moves to continue to help them improve, not just now, but in the future. And boy, did they do that. I mean, you look at the draft that in back-to-back years that Cleveland has been able to put together. All right. When you look at Andrew Berry and the job that he has done when it comes to the draft, last year, he pretty much hit on every single draft pick last year. I mean, the worst draft pick that he had was, of course, Dylan Gabriel. That was a horrible, but it seems like there was some conflict between the GMs, the coach, and the owner of what to do with the quarterback position. But the bottom line is every pick last year hit. From Schweisinger, the linebacker out of UCLA, which led the team in tackles, to Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end out of Bowling Green that led the team in catches and receiving yards last year, to obviously, if you want to go to Quinshon Judkins, who led the team in rushing last year. If you want to go to, obviously, Shedeur Sanders, still a lot of question marks, but he led the team in passing last year. Sampson, again, complimented Quinshon Judkins well when both were healthy and running at the same time. There's quite a combo, quite a 1-2 punch. And I'm sure I'm missing some easy ones there, but almost every pick last year, all but one. Dylan Gabriel was the only one that did not make an impact on the team last year. Every draft pick hit. And the Browns, when you just look at the value that they got in the draft and the guys that they were able to swing, and, they had a draft board of hoping that they'd get one of the 5 guys that they had, and they ended up getting 2 to 3 of the 5 guys that they wanted. They killed it. So the Cleveland Browns, the same guy that gave Cincinnati, Seth Walder with ESPN, the same guy that gave Cincinnati a C for their offseason, and I think it was very good. I think it was much better than a C, gave Cleveland a B+. I don't have a problem with this grade. I think that you can't give Cleveland an A. You can't give any team that needs a quarterback that doesn't address the quarterback in the offseason. To me, it's impossible to give them an A. But I think B+ is the highest grade you can get, considering you still did not really address the quarterback position. And you could say, well, they are rolling out Shador and then Deshaun's back, and that's what they feel confident in. No one feels confident in that. You're lying to yourself if, the Browns, they're confident in Deshaun Watson and Shador. No one's confident in that. It's like you're going to a rodeo and just waiting for the guy to just get absolutely destroyed by the bull. You know what I mean? Like, no one's confident that guy is going to get off that bull healthy. You're just waiting to see someone get kicked in the head. And that's kind of what I feel like with this quarterback competition in Cleveland. If it works out, if these guys get off the bull and they don't get kicked in the head, it's a win for them. But ultimately, it feels like they're pushing the quarterback conversation later so they can get this Deshaun deal off the books. But they get a B. All right, they got a B. The biggest move of the offseason, not a surprise, trading Myles Garrett. Walder, the move that he liked the most was trading Myles Garrett. The move that he disliked was signing Titus Howard, the offensive tackle. The write-up on Cleveland says that it has been awfully bleak in Cleveland the past couple of seasons, but the decision to trade away a franchise icon could be what jumpstarts a turnaround. I'm here to tell you, the turnaround started before trading him. I think it definitely helps, but I think there's going to be a lot of confused historians when it comes to the Browns. They've had elite drafts back-to-back years. This team's going to start winning football games at some point. It's going to be because of these drafts, not because they traded away Myles Garrett. But the Myles Garrett trade was so fascinating because I think it was well done. I mean, getting a piece in return to help you win now while getting a lot of draft picks to help you continue to build for the future, that's about as perfect of a return as you can get. And I'm not saying that Cleveland couldn't have potentially have gotten more. The Browns could have gotten more draft picks, and with those draft picks, you would have liked to have hoped that you could draft a player to produce at the level of not Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, that type of production so rare, but a Jared Verse. Are you confident that if you would have found another team to give you more draft picks but no Jared Verse, that you would have found a player at the level of Jared Verse with those draft picks? That's why I love what the Browns did with that Myles Garrett deal. You are not going to replace Myles Garrett's production with anybody. You're not going to find Myles Garrett's replacement in the draft as far as his production replacement. You might find his replacement, but you're not going to find his production replacement because he's just too damn good. You're just not going to do that. But Jared Verse is about as good of a Band-Aid as you can get for an instant production type player while getting those draft picks. Like, I think Cleveland's actually going to be fine. I'll never say that it's a good thing to lose a Myles Garrett, but at the same time, I think Cleveland's goal was to continue to make moves that put you in position to win now while also not mortgaging the future to win now. And I think that's why they decided to make the move that they did. And I think the fact that the Browns got so much trade value back when it comes to picks, and of course, not just the picks, but the Jared Verse, to get that back the way that they did, I think that's a big move right there. And even if they wouldn't have traded Myles Garrett, I think that the Browns have had a really, really good offseason, mainly because of the fact that they've had back-to-back drafts where they've attacked the need and they've been able to get absolutely everything that they need to. So the write-up goes on to say, it has been awfully bleak in Cleveland the past couple of seasons, but the decision to trade away a franchise icon could be what jumpstarts a turnaround. He says the Browns shocked the NFL world by sending Myles Garrett to the Rams in a June trade. I don't even know if that shocked the world. I mean, the Browns were dropping breadcrumbs all offseason. It started when they restructured the contract, and every player that has had their contract restructured the way that Myles Garrett's was ultimately traded. They were almost telling you right when the offseason started that they were preparing to move him. So I disagree with this guy when he says that they surprised the football world. I think it surprised more people that the Rams pulled it off than anybody else, because now there's all the talks of Aaron Donald coming out of retirement and what that could mean for the Rams as they try to, get another Super Bowl out of this core, especially with Matthew Stafford, the reigning MVP. How could that look for the Rams? I was more surprised at the team that pulled the trade off more so than the fact that the Browns traded Myles Garrett. It was the smart thing to do. I didn't like it, but it was the smart thing to do. So he goes on to say, there can be reasonable debate over the Rams side of this trade, but this was an unquestioned home run for Cleveland. Garrett is the reigning defensive player of the year and just broke the single-season sack record, but he is 30 years old, and the Browns are not close to contention. I disagree with that not close to contention part, but that's a debate for another day. By the time they get there, Garrett will be well into his decline. Possibly. I think that the Browns are 1-2 years max away from being legitimate playoff contenders. I've said this season, I think that their ceiling is 9 wins, and that's only if Shador shocks the world. And I'm not saying is a Joe Burrow. I'm just saying if he's one of those mid-tier quarterbacks. Think about the production that Houston's gotten from C.J. Stroud the last couple of years. C.J. Stroud was elite his rookie year. He's been average at best since. So if you could just, and he's been able to win games and make the playoffs every year with that defense while being average, because that defense has been there. Cleveland has a really good defense. They have a run game. If Shador could just be average, I think they could be a thorn in the side of a lot of teams in the AFC. I'm not guaranteeing playoffs. I'm not saying any of that nonsense. I'm just saying I think this team could actually be better than what many people anticipate. But yeah, he gave the Bengals a C. I disagree with that. I think that, the Bengals showed urgency, which is that's all I've asked for from Cincinnati. Show urgency. They did that. I have to give them an A for their offseason. And I agree with Cleveland's B+ grade. If you're a team that doesn't have your quarterback situation figured out and you end an offseason without figuring it out, it's impossible for me to give you an A in any level. But I think they had one hell of an offseason, and I kudos to the front office for being willing to part ways with Myles Garrett, nonetheless. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Hour number 1 in the books. We now head to hour number 2. We'll talk a little Reds, and then, Kev Nash, he's going to pop in. We're going to talk a little LeBron James. I love that at this point in LeBron's career, heading into year 24, that he still has the entire sports world just holding their breath, waiting to see where he's going to take his talents to. Remember when everyone threw the temper tantrum when he took his talents to South Beach? Now here we are, all these years later, 24 years in the league, and we're still anticipating where he's going to take his talents to next. We'll get to all of that and more coming up in hour 2. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
1410 Wing AM, Dayton's ESPN Radio, powered by
Old English Outfitters is a one-stop shop for all your firearms, archery, hunting, and accessory needs, as well as repairs with a full-time staff gunsmith.